Hello and welcome to Tap That MTG, the show where we tell you everything we know about Magic the Gathering that's probably wrong, but super fun to talk about. I'm Leslie.
And I'm Shauna.
And today we have another deep dive into the newest Strixhaven Commander decks. We like to break these down for you, tell you what's inside them, what the cards do, how they're supposed to be played, and if you stick it out to the very end, you'll also find some tweaks that we've put together of how you can make the deck just a little bit better, and things like that. So, Shauna, what is the deck that we're talking about today, and what does it do?
Well, this is a very spooky deck
Spooky,
called
spooky.
Witherbloom Witchcraft. It's time for the witches to come out. Uh, the commander for this deck is Willow Dusk Essence Seer. It's for one, a black and a green, a little 3/3 Dryad Druid that can, if you pay one and tap it, you can choose another target creature, put a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the amount of life you gained this turn, or the amount of life you lost this turn, whichever is greater. Activate only as a sorcery. So you can only do that on your turn, but you're going to be in control of doing some crazy life gain shenanigans. So that's the point of the deck. Lots of life gain. And then you're going to put counters on stuff. And then with that life, you're going to make some little yucky bugs and stuff that are going to gain you more life.
I also
So
like
that's good.
I also like on this commander too how it's or the amount of life you lost this turn, because it in essence has that don't attack this person, because if you attack them with 20, they can tap her and potentially give her 20 counters, right? So I really like that either way kind of shenanigans.
A little bit of politicking going on.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the breakdown of this deck? Yeah.
Well, good question. Of course, when you look at the mana curve of this deck, it's kind of all over the board. We have like some 3 and 4 and 5 mana cost. There's a lot of cards that are over 4 mana. I think kind of 3 and under is kind of a typical cost for most commander decks. We have 12 at 5, 6 at 6, 3 at 7, and then there's these X mana cost cards that usually they're, of course, converted mana cost officially is only 2, but you're going to cast them for more than that. So a lot of high mana cost things here. And then when we look at our color breakdown, we can see that there are far more black cards than there are green cards in this deck. 23 black and 15 green, 10 multicolor and 12 colorless. Those are kind of like your rocks and mana dorks and potentially equipment. And 40 land in this deck. So a lot of land, which could potentially give you a chance to tweak, or perhaps we might need this land. So as we break this down, that will become more clear. As far as types go, in this deck, we see 24 creatures and 17 instants and sorceries. They're actually fairly close there. We only have one artifact creature. The rest of the artifacts are, as we said, rocks or equipment. There are 5 enchantments and 1 planeswalker. All of these new decks have 1 planeswalker in them. So all in all, it seems like a fairly well-rounded deck, other than the mana curve being a little bit janky. But I think that we have enough mana to deal with that, and or mana ramp is, well, I don't know. I guess we'll see.
We'll see.
I guess we'll see. What about how we're going to kind of look at this deck a little bit deeper? What are we going to look at?
Well, in this deck and the other ones that we have done, we have a little formula that we follow, and Wizard seems to follow that formula fairly regularly as well. So you have your ramp cards, which are about 15 of those, 15 removal cards, both individual and mass removal, 13 card draw, 12 high impact cards. So those are cards that can win you the game or really swing the game in your favor. And 10 other cards that are support that win condition or that really help with the whole theme of the deck. And usually about 34 lands. So, and this one has 40. We'll see how we go.
Yeah, and all of those can kind of fluctuate between 2 or 3, depending up or down what you want to do. So with this deck, the very first thing we're going to talk about, of course, is our mana ramp and mana generators. In our formula, we recommend 15 for this category. This deck has 12. So right in the range that we should be. The very first one is one of, I think, both of ours favorite cards. It's Leyline Prowler for 1 and a black and a green. He's a little Death Touch lifelinker guy for 2. That's a 2/3 that you can tap and add for mana. So not only are you getting lifelink, which is kind of helpful, especially with this deck where you're going to get counters because of lifelink, you have Death Touch, potential Death Touch blocker if you need it, and it ramps you up early game. So this is a great little card to put in any Witherbloom deck.
Then we have our good old faithful Cultivate for 2 and a green that you can go and search your library for 2 land cards, for 1 on the battlefield and 1 in your hand, which is extremely handy.
And a fairly common staple for Commander is Rampant Growth for 1 and a green. It's a sorcery that allows you to go search for a basic land. You get to put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then you shuffle your library. So pretty basic.
A Pulse of Marasa, which is a 2 and a green instant that you can return a target creature or land from your graveyard to its owner's hand. You gain 3 life. So it's going to get you some life gain as well as getting your cards back from the graveyard.
And Druidic Satchel for 3 is an artifact. This is our first artifact. So once you've got it on the battlefield, artifacts don't have summoning sickness, so you could potentially do this right away. You can pay 2 and tap it to reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, you put a 1/1 green sapling creature token onto the battlefield, which is a nice little blocker potentially. And if it's a land, you get to put that onto the battlefield under your control. If it's a non-creature, non-land, then you gain 2 life. A lot of value out of this card for a little 3 mana cost. I love this card. I don't know why it's not in every deck because it's colorless.
It's pretty useful.
Yeah.
Gift of Paradise for 2 and a green. It's a little enchantment aura that you enchant your land with, and when it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. And that land gets to be 2 mana of any one color. So that's pretty handy for fixing or whatever you need.
So Nisa's Renewal is a pretty high mana cost card in and of itself for being in the ramp category, but for 5 and a green, you get a little sorcery that you can search your library for up to 3 basic land cards and put them onto the battlefield tapped. Then you shuffle your library and you then gain 7 life. So it is expensive, but you get a lot of value out of it, and it's like you're there, you're at 6, but you sure would like to be at 9 mana so that the next turn you can start getting some stuff done. So if you have this at the right time, it's a great card.
Then we have Arcane Signet, which has become a staple. It is a 2 mana cost artifact that you can tap and add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Sweet.
And Soul Ring. I don't know why I always get to be the one that talks about Soul Ring. Maybe that's why it comes up in my deck more often.
Maybe.
Soul Ring for 1. You can tap it for 2 colorless mana. Really great early game. No one likes to get it late game for some reason, but it's a good card.
Yeah. Paradise Plume. Neither one of us knew about this card until
Great
we saw
card.
it in these decks.
Yeah.
It's a little 4 mana cost artifact that when it enters the battlefield, you choose a color, and whenever a player casts a spell of the chosen color, you may gain 1 life, and it taps for mana of that chosen color. So pretty nice for this deck with the life gain and stuff.
Yeah, actually, really good card for this deck. Pristine Talisman. It's 3 mana cost. It taps for colorless and you gain 1 life. Again, value, gaining life, and tapping for mana.
Talisman of Resilience is a cool looking card for 2. It is an artifact that you can add colorless mana by tapping it, or you can add black or green, but it deals the damage to you. But you're going to have so much life gain. You won't care about that. You just want the mana fixing.
And with this commander, you can gain counters based on damage you lose as well. So
exactly.
6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Yeah.
So our next section is removal. Really important to have removal in any deck. Don't forget about your removal. In our formula, we recommend that you have 15. In this deck, we have 11. So it's a little low on removal, especially for what we like. We like to be more removal heavy than anything. But this first one is a really good removal. So Noxious Gearhulk for 4 and 2 black. It's an artifact creature, our only artifact creature in this deck. That's a 5/4 with menace. And when it enters the battlefield, you can destroy another target creature. If the creature is destroyed this way, then you gain life equal to its toughness. So get rid of that thing that you just really hate that's on the battlefield and gain some life at the same time, which again works with the synergy of this deck. So
this one, Suffer the Past, is an X cost card. So X and a black, where you exile X target cards from a target player's graveyard. For each card exiled this way, that player loses a life and you gain 1 life. So this is really nice graveyard hate, where you can get rid of those cards that you really don't want them bringing back again. And they lose life from that and you gain life. That's so good.
Yeah, especially in Commander, there's always people bringing stuff back, right? So
yeah,
graveyard removal is removal. Reckless Spite for 1 and 2 black is just an instant. You destroy 2 target non-black creatures and you lose 5 life. So there is a downfall to that. But again, with this deck, it doesn't matter. You can lose 5 life and gain 5 counters. So it's great.
Feed the Swarm is another one for 1 and a black and destroy target creature or enchantment, which is nice. And opponent controls, and you lose life equal to that permanent's converted mana cost. So that's a little cost up there in the corner, but you don't care.
No. I feel like if I hadn't gone through this, though, that I would forget that. I would forget about the counters on life loss as well. So good to go through it and remind yourself. Deadly Tempest for 4 and 2 black is a sorcery. Destroy all creatures. Period. Each player loses life equal to the number of creatures they controlled that were destroyed this way. So not only are you destroying their creatures, you're getting rid of a whole bunch of their creatures. And then if by some mystery you happen to be able to protect your own creature, then you can put counters on it after with your commander. So
no, you can.
If you lost life, because you're going to lose life too. You need something on the battlefield, so you need to like save something. But remember, your commander, you can tap and put counters on it based on the number of the amount of life you lost this turn, right? So it's okay if you lose your creatures if you can save your commander.
Yeah. Mortality Sphere for 2, a black and a green. It's an instant. This spell costs 2 less to cast if you gained life this turn. Destroy target non-land permanent. That's going to be good. Any non-land permanent.
Gaze of Granite is another X cost. So this one actually is pretty expensive when you consider it's X plus 2 black plus a green. It's a sorcery. Destroy, though, each non-land permanent with converted mana cost of X or less. So this is a great card for those people that are trying to get rid of that thing that has hexproof. Because it's not targeting a creature, it's each creature. And so it gets around that hexproof stuff that's so hard sometimes.
Good tip. Obnixilis Reignited for 3 and 2 black. His +1, he's a 5 loyalty planeswalker. His +1 is you draw a card and you lose a life. Or -3, destroy target creature. Now, I was thinking that he'd probably be more used for that. And then his -8 is target opponent gets an emblem with whenever player draws a card, you lose 2 life. So, yeah.
All good options, but he'll go in the card draw section too if we need him to, right?
Yep, exactly.
Haste of Death for 4 and 2 black. Each player sacrifices 3, count them, 3 creatures, and you create 3 food tokens, which I had never even thought of until we were going through this deck, but obviously food tokens are valid life gain, and so what a great idea to have some food synergy in here. And there's all kinds of other food synergy that you can use if you want to start tweaking that way as well.
Essence Pulse for 3 and a black. It is a sorcery that you gain 2 life, and each creature gets -X until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. So another board wipe potentially, depending on, well, it's -2 for sure because you gained 2 life. So it would be crazy.
Yeah. You might have to think about when you want to do that one.
Yeah.
And this is a new one. I love the art on this card. Of course, Shauna and I are always about the art. I know you hear that from us lots and lots and lots, so I'm sorry. But look at it. They're so adorable. I have never wanted to cuddle a pest so much in my life. So Pest Infestation for XX green is a sorcery. Destroy up to X target artifacts and or enchantments. Create twice X 1/1 black and green pest creature tokens with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. So a lot of stuff happening in there, but basically X and X are the same. So whatever you've chosen X to be, if that happens to be 3, then you would pay 3, 3, and green. So altogether that would be 7. And then X is you would create 3 of those, or you destroy 3 artifacts and you get to create twice X. So 6 1/1 black green pest creature token. So a lot of stuff going on there, but once you start just deciding what X is, then it all works out. And you thought you wouldn't use your math skills when you were an adult.
That's right. And if you lose those little guys to some of your board wipes, I mean, who cares? You're going to gain life again. So
yeah,
it's going to be fun. All right, so then we're on to the card draw and tutor section. And this one, the formula calls for 13. There's only about 8 in this deck, so we'll see how that turns out. The first card we have in here is a card that I'm surprised is in here because it's actually a really valuable card as far as general cards go. Alhamaret's Archive, if I'm saying that correctly. It's a 5 mana cost artifact that says if you would gain life, you gain twice that much life instead. If you would draw a card, except the first one you draw each of your draw steps, you draw 2 cards instead. That's just going to sit there and help you so much with this deck.
Well, and if you go back to that other card that we were talking about that was automatically you gain 2 life and everything gets -X, -X. If you have this on the battlefield, now you gained 4 life automatically and everything's -4, -4 just by having that on the battlefield. So
yes.
Ancient Cravings for 3 and a black is a sorcery. You draw 3 cards, you lose 3 life. Pretty basic.
No problem. Blood Tracker for 3 and a black, a little 2/2 vampire. It is a flying vampire, of course. You can pay a black and 2 life and put a 1/1 counter on the Blood Tracker. And when it leaves the battlefield, you get to draw a card for each of those 1/1 counters on it. So there's lots of ways to put counters on this dude.
Yeah.
And that means cards. Yes.
Silver Moat Ghoul for 2 and a black is a zombie vampire. It's a nice little 3/1. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, you get to return Silver Moat Ghoul from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So this guy is undoubtedly going to come back because there will be turns that you're going to gain more than 3 life with no problem. And you can also sacrifice him to draw a card. So yes, there might only be 8, but this guy is going to just keep coming back and keep giving you card draw if you finally get to him. So
I've seen this card do a ton of card draw for people before. Damnable Pact for X and 2 black. It's a sorcery. Target player draws X cards and loses X life. So you're gonna make that you, but that's okay. You don't mind.
And Well of Lost Dreams, I had never seen. It's so funny. You feel like you've looked at and read thousands of cards, and then something comes up and you're like, this is an old card. Why have I not seen it? But Well of Lost Dreams for 4 is an artifact. Whenever you gain life, you may pay X, where X is where X is less than or equal to the number of life you gained. And if you do, you draw X cards. So lots of card draw there, which is, or potentially at least. So
yeah. Greed, which is for 3 and a black, a little enchantment that's going to sit out there for you, and you can pay black and 2 life at pretty much any time you want, as many times as you want, and draw a card. It's greedy.
Yep. And it's okay for you to lose life. Yeah.
Yeah. We were laughing about how this is another card where someone's puking out coins.
There's so anything that has to do with greedy and treasure. Someone's puking something out. Muldervine Reclamation, another enchantment that is constantly going to get you some card draw for 3 and a black and a green. Whenever a creature you control dies, you gain 1 life and you draw a card. So a lot of stuff in the card draw is stuff that's going to stay on the battlefield or come back to the battlefield and give you continuous card draw. So even though you don't have the full 13, you get really good value out of what's there. So
yeah, just think about how many little creatures you're going to have die. It's just like you're gaining life from the creature dying, and the little dude, those little things are, you gain a life from the little thing dying. Which is awesome. Oh dear. Okay, so then we have high impact cards. These are cards that are going to win you the game or completely change it in your favor anyways. For formula, there's about 12, and in this deck there's about 12. So this is good. We have Ageless Entity in there first. It's a 4/4 for 3 and 2 green, a little elemental. And whenever you gain life, put that many +1 counters onto Ageless Entity. So very similar to your commander.
Yeah, and Bloodthirsty Aerialist is no exception to that. We got a lot of good creatures in here, high impact creatures that are just going to gain life and gain counters. So Bloodthirsty Aerialist is 1 and 2 black flyer. That's 2/3, and whenever you gain life, you get a counter on him. Potentially get really big, really fast, and it has evasion. So yay for flying.
Epicure of the Blood, a little vampire, a 4/4 vampire for 4 and a black. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses a life. That could be a lot of life.
Yeah. Sanguine Bond for 3 and 2 black. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. So, you might as well have 2 things out there. And
that's crazy. And that's even more life that they're going to lose because it's for every bit of life.
Yeah.
Whew. Verdant Sun's Avatar for 5 and 2 green. This is one of Leslie's favorite cards.
It
5/5 Dinosaur Avatar. Whenever it or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, so tokens too, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. Sweet.
And Vampire Nighthawk for 1 and 2 black is a flying death touch, lifelink 2/3. So it's not a huge creature for being high impact, but we have seen so many times this one do so much for you. Not only is it a nice little death touch blocker, just that flying and lifelink, especially in this deck, just to us move that into the high impact right away.
Yeah. Then the Lexanon Warhammer, it's just such a good toy to play with. It's a 3 mana cost equipment artifact that equipped creature gets +3/+0 and has trample and lifelink. I mean, really. Equip cost is 3. You're going to get it onto something and do a lot of damage and gain a lot of life. And trample is so good to have.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And now I think we're moving on to some of the newer Strixhaven cards. So Tivesh, Gloom Summoner, which is a great name, for
I
4
love his hair.
Yeah, right? 4 in a black for a little 4/4 lifelinker. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, you may pay X life, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. And if you do, you create an XX black demon creature with flying. So you're going to gain life. You're going to then trade that life in for a demon, but you still gained that life. So you can still use your commander's ability to get another benefit from gaining that life. Just saying.
Yep. It's so silly. Vane Witch Coven, a vampire warlock. It's another witch. 3/3. It has a menace, and whenever you gain life, you may pay a black mana. If you do, you get to return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand.
Yes.
What?
Shenanigans.
Going into so many commander decks ahead.
Yeah. Blossoming Bogbeast for 4 and a green. Whenever Blossoming Bogbeast attacks, you gain 2 life, and when a creature you control then the creature you control gains trample and gets +X/+X until the end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. So again, this is another one where whenever it attacks, you're automatically going to gain 2, but it could be more if you have other buffs on the battlefield. And it encourages you to gain your life in your first main phase rather than your last main phase. And yeah, I'm sorry, everybody. You can hear my cat trying to get in. It's just going to happen. Anyways.
Oh dear. Then we have the Ezerut Channeler for 5 and a green, a 4/6 tree folk druid that has reach. Yay, a tree that has reach.
Right?
Creature spells, finally. Creature spells you cast cost X less to cast, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. And you can just tap the little tree and gain 2 life. So it really helps out.
So many ways of gaining
You
life.
need it. Yeah.
So this next card has a new ability on it, Healing Technique for 3 and a green. It has Demonstrate, which I'll explain in a second. So the card's ability or action is to return a target card from your graveyard to your hand, and then you gain life equal to that card's mana value, which is converted mana cost, and then you exile Healing Technique. But Demonstrate allows you to copy it if you let somebody else around the table copy it as well. So a little bit of politicking going on. I can say, hey, Shauna, my girl, I would like to have this twice, so I'm going to give it to you. She gets the ability to bring something back to her hand. She gets to gain life equal to the card's converted mana cost as well, which she's going to love. And then we're going to take everybody out because that's what we do.
Shh, don't tell anyone.
Shh, don't tell.
We have this fun little fungus beast to sprout back Trudge for 7 and 2 green. Expensive, but it's a 9/7 that costs X less to cast, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. It has trample, folks. It has trample. And you could potentially pay 2 for it. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, you may cast Sprout Back Trudge from your graveyard.
It's just going to keep coming back.
It's just going to come back over and over again.
So it says you may cast it from its graveyard. You still have to pay the 9 mana cost?
Yes, but reduced if you by that amount of life that you gained.
Exactly. Yeah. Cool. So other cards on theme is our next section. Basically, these are other win conditions, specialty cards, things that are on theme. Basically stuff that kind of supports the rest of your deck. The formula says we should have 10. We figured about 16 in this deck. Again, this is where you're going to go to look for tweaks, but some of these will fit into your other categories as well. But we just kind of felt they supported the theme really well. So Defiant Bloodlord for 5 and 2 black, so 7 mana cost, you get a 4/5 flyer. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. So you're going to have to target someone, but it's the amount of life you gain, and it could be potentially several times per turn. If you have lifelink on multiple creatures, you're gaining life for each of those creatures. So just remember that those are each instances of you gaining life.
Then we have Sangro Mansur for 2 and 2 black, a little 3/3 flying vampire as well. But this one, whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you may gain 3 life. And whenever an opponent discards a card, you may gain 3 life. So this could be, in commander games especially, this can really help you.
And both Sean and I were really happy that the Gluttonous Troll made it into this deck for 2 and a black and a green. He's a little 3/3 trampler, but it enters the battlefield. You get to create a number of food tokens equal to the number of opponents you have. Hopefully you get this early in the game. Then you can pay 1 and a green to sacrifice another non-land permanent. And then Gluttonous Troll gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. So all those little pest tokens that you're going to be creating, you can sacrifice them as many as you like, that you have mana for, and just make them nice and big and beefy with trample.
Yeah. Help the troll win some games.
Yeah.
Poor guy. He's misunderstood.
There's a troll in the deck.
Oh dear. Sapling of Kohlfaner is for 3 and 2 black-green hybrid mana, a 2/5 legendary treefolk shaman that is indestructible. And whenever it attacks, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, you gain life equal to that card's toughness, and you lose life equal to its power. Then you put it in your hand. So it's have some more trees in this deck, maybe. I don't know.
Well, and I love with this deck that ultimately it could be the 3/3 troll. So you're going to gain life and lose life, which is ultimately a wash. But again, with your commander, you've still gained that life. Even though you lost it, you still gained that 3 life. So it's still going to give you benefits.
Yeah.
Sun Droplet for 2 is a little artifact that whenever you're dealt damage, you put that many charge counters on Sun Droplet. And then at the beginning of each upkeep, not just yours, you may remove a charge counter from Sun Droplet. If you do, you gain 1 life. So nice little ability to gain some life during each turn.
But it's going to counteract all the damage that you get dealt.
Mm-hmm. It's hope.
So, yeah, I'll just gain it back.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Elixir of Immortality for 1. It's a little artifact. You can pay 2 and tap it, and you gain 5 life. And then you shuffle Elixir of Immortality and your whole graveyard into your library. So that's really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And cards back.
There's nothing wrong with having a Vesner's Journal in your deck. It's actually a really great little card for 5. Gives you no maximum hand size, which is always good if you have some card draw, especially with those ones that have continuous card draw. Then at the beginning of your upkeep, you gain 1 life for each card in your hand. So this is a good way of hopefully you will continue to draw cards so you can gain lots of life. It's also an incentive to just maybe remember that you don't have to play all your land. There's 40 land in this deck. If you're playing it straight out of the box and you have enough land on the board to do what you want to do, keep those land in your hand for stuff like this that just gives you life because they're sitting in your hand and doing something.
Then we have another troll. I'm so excited for a
handsome troll.
It's a Giome Master Chef for 2, a green and a black, a little 5/3 troll. And he has trample as well. And at the beginning of your end step, you get to create a number of food tokens equal to the number of non-creature tokens you had enter. Yeah, non-token creatures you had enter the battlefield under your control this turn. So, yeah. You pay 1, sacrifice a food, and target creature gains indestructible until end of turn. You have to tap it, though.
Mm-hmm.
Protect your guys with the food that you have. What?
I love that they created another card that makes food. And is it bad that I'm attracted to this troll because he's cooking? I don't know. Blight Mound for 2 and a black is an enchantment, and attacking pests you control get +1/+0 and have menace. And whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you get to create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with, when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. So your stuff dies, that's okay. You're going to create some little pests that now have menace and +1/+0. So yeah, it's great.
I like those little guys. Marshland Bloodcaster for 4 and a black. It's a 3/5 flyer. And you can pay 1 and a black and tap it. And rather than pay the mana cost of the next spell you cast this turn, you may pay life equal to that spell's mana cost.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Trudge Garden for 2 and a green is an enchantment that whenever you gain life, you may pay 2. And if you do, you create a 4/4 green fungus creature token with trample. For 2, you only have to pay 2 for a 4/4. That's ridiculous. We should have put that in high impact. Anyway.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
We obviously talked about maybe, so yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to gain
Eudora. Yeah, you're good. Yeah. Eudora Grave Gardener for 4 and a green. It's a 5/5 tree. Another tree. Tree folk druid. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may return it to the battlefield, face down under its owner's control. It's a forest land. So we kind of hummed and hawed about this one. Would you want to do that?
I don't know that I love this
It's
card.
a May ability because you have other ways of bringing them back as actual creatures, which might be more beneficial. I don't know.
I don't love that card. It makes me choose too much, and I don't like it. Revival Experiment for 4 and a black and a green is a sorcery. And for each permanent type, return up to 1 card of that type from your graveyard to the battlefield. You lose 3 life for each card returned this way. Then you have to exile Revival Experiment. So, permanent types. What are the permanent types, Shauna?
Oh gosh. We've got creature. We have enchantments. We have land. We have artifacts. Planeswalkers.
Oh, I forgot about Planeswalkers.
I believe that's it for permanents.
That would be in the graveyard, yeah. I mean, technically tokens are permanents too, but you can't bring those back because they disappear when they're in the graveyard. But yes, so basically there's several things to choose from. If something is an artifact creature, then you would choose one of those. They wouldn't cover both of those. So you get to choose 1 creature, 1 artifact, 1 enchantment, 1 planeswalker from your graveyard. I like that mass bring back.
Yeah. Honor Troll for 2 and a green. It's a 2/3 little troll druid that has vigilance. And if you would gain life, you gain that much life +1 instead. And he gets +2/+1 as long as you have 25 or more life. Well, hell, you're going to have that anyways at the start of the game.
You're gonna. That's gonna go in on some standard decks, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Dina, Soul Steeper, for a black and a green, is a legendary creature, Dryad Druid. She's making tea. She's a steeper. There is a soul in that tea. I'm just gonna say that. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. So it's only 1, not that much. And then you can pay 1 and sacrifice another creature. And Dina Soul Steeper gets +X/+0 until the end of turn, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. So, because that's a 1 mana cost, you could do that as many times as you want because you don't have to tap her. So you could potentially sacrifice a whole bunch. I would use that during combat. Remember, instants are for combat. So anything you can do at instant speed, you probably should do at instant speed. So if someone decides not to block her, you have a bunch of stuff. They forgot that she has that ability. You just sacrifice all your creatures and swing in for the kill. Hopefully, I don't know.
Yeah, and if you gain life when your creatures die, then they're going to lose another life just from her.
And if they lose life equal to the amount of life that you gained, then
there's probably some combos that somebody's going to figure out.
So much synergy in this deck with everything working together.
All righty, then we're moving into the land section. We have the formula says 34. This deck we have 40. But as you can see, there's a lot of high mana cost stuff, and we want to make sure we get our land out. So we've got a couple little special forests. The Sapseed Forest that comes in, and you can gain a life and activate this only if you control 2 or more green permanents, which you're going to have. So that's just a nice little, you can use that land for life gain if you want to. Gingerbread Cabin, it makes a food as long as if it comes in untapped, you get to have a food. So there's another life gain piece there. So that's really handy.
And we have 6 dual lands in here. Some of them tap for 1, some of them tap for both. Some of them come in and use scry. So they all have different things, but the thing they have all in common is that they tap for either black or green. So Tainted Wood, Jungle Hollow, Temple of Malady, Llanowar Wastes, Witherbloom Campus, and Golgari Rot Farm. And I really like the new campuses because there is an ongoing scry there. And anytime you have a land that does something else for you, you're golden.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why that blue one from Throne of Eldraine is so good, because you can scry all the time with it, right? So.
Yeah.
Then we are into the gold-colored lands, the Exotic Orchard, which can tap for any mana that your opponents can produce. The new Study Hall from this set that taps for colorless, or you can pay 1 and add mana of any color to cast your commander. And if you do that, you get to scry, where X is the number of times that you cast your commander. And then, of course, Command Tower, where you add 1 mana of any color in your commander's identity.
And then we have 7, count them, 7 lands that tap for colorless and do other stuff. So Blighted Woodlands, Myriad Landscapes, Rogue's Passage, High Market, Radiant Fountain, Temple of the False Gods, and the one that I think is super neat is this Witch's Clinic. You pay 2 and tap it, and target commander gains lifelink until the end of turn. So that one I think was made for this deck, obviously. Yeah, so lots of really fun little utility lands that do stuff for you. We like them all. So I like Rogue's Passage.
That's her fave.
That's one of my faves. And we also have 11 swamps and 11 forests in this deck. So lots of room to play if we want to.
All right. Well, thank you for sticking with us this long. We have gone through the deck as it comes, and now we're moving into the section that we've added some tweaks, about 10 different tweaks that we think might help this deck out a little bit. Yeah, so without any further ado, I'm going to start with Eradicator Valkyrie, which is an Angel Berserker that I really like. It's a 4/3 for 2 and 2 black that has flying, lifelink, and hexproof from Stupid Planeswalkers, which is really nice. And it has Boast, which is Boast is, as long as that creature is attacking, you can pay the Boast cost and do that effect. So in this case, it sacrifices a creature, and each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. So this can potentially help you remove cards from their side of the table.
Potentially a high impact ad there. Rayhan, the last of the Abzan, for colorless, a black and a green. Basically, it's a 0/0 creature, but it enters the battlefield with 3 1/1 counters on it. Whenever a creature you control dies or is put into the command zone, if it has 1 or more 1/1 counters on it, you may put that many 1/1 counters on target creature. So this is a great way to use those 1/1 counters that you're gaining because you're gaining life and move them to other places. If that creature happens to die, basically you don't lose those counters and you can move them to something else. So it's kind of like that, the one that,
the little
artifact, the Ozolith? No. I don't know. Anyways, I can't remember what it's called. It's kind of like that, but in a creature form. So,
yeah. Well, then we have a double-faced card from the new set, which is perfect for this deck. So the one side, I guess it's the front side is Valentine, Dean of the Vein. And that one is a Vampire Warlock, a little 1/1 that has Menace and Lifelink. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. When you do, you may pay 2, and if you do, you get to create a 1/1 black and green pest, which we really like the pests. And then the back side of this card is even better. So for Lisette, Dean of the Root, for 2 and 2 green, a 4/4, that whenever you gain life, you may pay 1, and if you do, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, and those creatures gain trample until end of turn.
It's crazy.
Each creature, whenever you gain life. Do that multiple times before you swing. Oh my god.
Definitely made for this deck, I think. Yeah. Another one we thought would be good for this deck would be Gerard, the Golgari Lich Lord, for 2 black and 2 green. He's a 2/2. And he gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. So those pests are going to disappear, but if someone does do board wipes, this is a good way to get value from them. You can pay 1 and a black and a green to sacrifice another creature, and then each opponent loses life equal to the sacrificed creature's power. Again, it's a nice passive way to try and kill your opponents, which this deck seems to want to do. You can also sacrifice a swamp and a forest to return this guy from your graveyard to your hand. So if they get rid of them, that's okay. You got lots of land in this deck, so let's just sacrifice them and bring them back.
Yeah. Nighthawk Scavenger for 1 and 2 black, a
Mm.
vampire rogue with flying, death touch, and lifelink. Its power and toughness is equal to 1 plus the number of card types among the cards in your opponent's graveyards. That's all of your opponent's graveyards.
Mhm.
So in Commander, it's good enough in Standard right now, but in Commander, that would be even better, I think.
Yeah.
At the minimum, it's 1. But it's in the air, death touch and lifelink. You only need to make 1 damage to kill something with death touch. So
Yeah. And then Veto, Thorn of the Dusk Rose. You already got some stuff in your deck that does this same thing, but for 2 and a black, it's a 1/3, and whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. We really like the fact that this loses that much life. So I think rather than, if you're going to replace something, rather than just adding this one in, losing that much life is better than losing 1 life because you gained life. So that's kind of why we thought he would be good.
yeah. Plus his ability.
Plus he gives everyone life link. So yeah, you know.
Yeah. That's a game ender quite often.
Yeah.
Containment Breach is another new card for 2 and a green, a sorcery that's a lesson. So destroy target artifact or enchantment. If its mana value is 2 or less, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when this creature dies, you gain 1 left. So that's removal for sure for those artifacts and enchantments. Plus you could get a little pest.
Yep.
Love it.
We have another double-sided or modal card. On one side, we have an artifact called Pestilent Cauldron for 2 and a black. So this little artifact allows you to tap it to discard a card and create a pest. You can also pay 1, tap it, and each opponent mills cards equal to the amount of life you gained this turn. Or you can pay 4 and tap it to exile 4 target cards from a single graveyard and draw a card. So we were talking about it needing card draw. You can get some pest synergy going on with this, or just get some stuff into their graveyards and gain life with it. So a lot of great things just on that one side. On the other side, we have a sorcery for 3 and 2 green, and you return up to 2 target creatures, land, and or planeswalker cards from your graveyard to your hand, and then each player gains 4 life, and then you exile this card. So the way the modal cards work too, if you're not familiar with that, is that you're choosing one of those to cast. You're not once you've cast the one side, the other side is gone, unless it goes to your graveyard and you can bring it back to your hand, then you can try it again.
Here we have a witch from the new set that we thought would fit. 3/2 for 2 and a black with menace. And this one has ward. So pay 3 life. So a ward is kind of a built-in counter spell. So whenever it becomes the target of like a spell from your opponents, they have to pay that ward cost. So they would have to pay 3 life. It also has Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, it creates a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when this creature dies, you gain a life. So it's kind of handy to have out for when you play your other cards. You're making some creatures, and it's good.
Well, and the Magecraft is a nice new thing that just gets you that ongoing benefit for those instants and sorceries, right? And yay, I get to do dragons again. Yay. So this is the Witherbloom Elder Dragon, Belladros Witherbloom for 5 and a black and a green. It's a flying 4/4 dragon that at the beginning of each upkeep, so theirs as well, you get to create a black and green pest creature token with flying, which is awesome. So you're just going to keep getting those pests in there. And then because you're going to have lots of life, you can pay 10 life to untap all lands, do a whole bunch of other stuff. You can only do that once per turn, but hey, tap all your lands, pay 10 life, tap all your lands again. And then you can get counters based on that life. If you have if you get this card, it should go in this deck.
Yeah. Then we have Return of the Wild Speaker, which is a card that I really like because number one, it has Garruk on it, and number two, I've won games with it. So
Yeah.
it's an instant, and you can choose to draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control. You're going to have lots of that. And non-human creatures, or you can choose that non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn. It's a surprise, that's for sure.
Yeah, lots of options. And we couldn't, I mean, we had trouble stopping
Yeah.
giving suggestions for this, but we couldn't leave out Bookworm. So this is a great little card, new card, Bookworm, for 7 and a green. So it's pretty expensive, but you get a 7/7 worm with trample. And when it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. You draw a card. We need card draw anyway. And then you can pay 2 and a green to put Bookworm from your graveyard into your library, 3rd from the top. So you're going to get it back if you need to. And I mean, look at that artwork. It's just super cool as it is. We love it. So yeah.
Breaking up the library.
Breaking up the library.
A book in one sitting. Just
it's like those middle school kids in the library, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. So true. That's it for this time. So thank you for watching or listening and hanging out with us. We are available on YouTube or your favorite podcast place. Feel free to connect with us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. We'd love to hear what you think of our deck breakdowns. Tell us what you would do instead. We'd love to hear from you. Come and hang out with us on Twitch. We have a lot of great fun with Commander on Mondays, and we see you there as well. So that's it for this time. We will see you next time. And in the meantime, tap those magic cards.
And have fun doing it. Bye, guys.
Bye.